The sun was setting over the crimson waters of New Oregon, bathing the jagged coastline of Gaia 7 in shades of fiery orange and deep violet. Logan Reeve stood on the deck of his small fishing boat, the Starbound, staring out into the churning waves. He had always loved this time of day when the twin moons began to rise, casting silver ripples across the sea. But tonight, there was nothing peaceful about the horizon. Dark clouds loomed far off in the distance, swirling unnaturally in a circular pattern. Logan furrowed his brow. He had seen storms on Gaia 7 before, violent ones, with winds that could rip trees from the ground, but this one felt different. The air was heavy, almost electric, and the hair on the back of his neck prickled with an instinctive warning. Logan sighed, turning to secure his fishing nets. He was a man who relied on routine and pragmatism. After years of living on this alien planet, he had learned to trust his instincts and keep his head down. He wasn't one for grand adventures or strange mysteries. But tonight, the sea seemed to whisper something different, as if daring him to pay attention. Just as he was about to start the engine and head back to shore, a flash of green light erupted across the sky, followed by a deafening crack. The sea responded violently, tossing the Starbound like a toy boat. Logan gripped the railing, his knuckles turning white, and cursed under his breath. What the hell was that? He muttered to himself, scanning the horizon. Then he saw it, a massive, dark shape thrashing in the water not far from his boat. At first, Logan thought it was one of the massive sea serpents that were known to haunt these depths, creatures the colonists had nicknamed leviathans. But this creature was struggling, caught in the turbulent waves, its long, glistening body half submerged. And then, for a brief moment, he saw a pair of glowing blue eyes lock onto him with a desperate, almost human intensity. Logan's heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, he grabbed a thick rope, tied it around his waist, and dove into the roiling sea. The cold water hit him like a shock, but he pushed through, swimming with strong, determined strokes toward the creature. As he got closer, he realized just how massive it was, easily the size of a small shuttlecraft, with scales that shimmered with a metallic hue under the flashes of lightning. The creature thrashed again, sending a wave crashing over Logan's head. He resurfaced, gasping for air, and swam even harder. Finally, he reached it, wrapping the rope around what seemed to be a thick, scaled limb. Up close, the creature was even stranger. Its skin was not quite reptilian, but not entirely like anything Logan had ever seen before. It was something entirely otherworldly, even by Gaia 7's bizarre standards. "Hold still, damn it!" Logan grunted, struggling to tighten the rope. The creature's glowing eyes watched him, flickering with a mixture of fear and, was it relief? With a final heave, Logan managed to secure the rope and began the arduous task of dragging the beast back toward his boat. The waves fought him every inch of the way, but eventually, with muscles screaming in protest, he managed to haul both himself and the creature onto the deck. Gasping for breath, Logan collapsed beside it, the two of them lying there, drenched and exhausted. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the storm and the creature's labored breathing. "What the hell are you?" Logan whispered, more to himself than to the beast. In response, the creature turned its head, its blue eyes dimming slightly. Its long, sinewy neck flexed as it attempted to lift itself. Logan watched, transfixed, as it emitted a low, mournful rumble, almost like a wounded animal. But there was something else behind that sound, and intelligence, a plea. Logan slowly reached out a hand, not entirely sure why. Perhaps it was the creature's eyes, or maybe the way it seemed so vulnerable lying there. But as his fingers brushed against its scales, he felt a jolt, a spark of something that wasn't entirely physical. His mind was suddenly flooded with a brief image, a lush, alien landscape filled with towering crystal spires, shimmering beneath a sky of swirling colors. The image vanished as quickly as it came, leaving Logan reeling. He pulled his hand back in shock. What the hell? The creature's eyes closed, and it went still, its chest rising and falling with labored breaths. Logan's instincts screamed at him to get as far away from this thing as possible, to leave it here and pretend he'd never seen it. But another part of him, the part that had once been a curious young explorer before life had made him jaded, told him that this was something far beyond his understanding and that he had just become a part of it. Shaking off the strange feeling, Logan grabbed a thermal blanket from his emergency supplies and carefully draped it over the creature. It was the least he could do after pulling it from the sea. He checked his surroundings, making sure they weren't about to capsize, and turned his boat toward the shore. The storm was still raging, but Logan was determined to get back to his cabin. Whatever this creature was, it needed shelter. And maybe, just maybe, it held the answers to questions he didn't even know he had. As the boat powered through the waves, Logan glanced back at the creature. It was watching him again, those glowing blue eyes reflecting both pain and gratitude. For a moment, he almost felt as if it were trying to speak, but the words never came. Instead, the creature's eyes slowly closed, its body relaxing into unconsciousness. Logan's mind raced. What had he just pulled from the depths? And why did he have the unsettling feeling that this was only the beginning of something far bigger and far more dangerous than anything he had ever imagined? The storm raged well into the night, battering Logan's small coastal cabin with relentless winds and rain that sounded like a million nails hammering against the metal roof. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of seawater and wet earth. Logan had managed to drag the alien creature into his living room, where it now lay on a thick tarp he'd hastily spread out. The warmth from his old thermal generator filled the room, causing steam to rise from the creature's glistening scales. Logan crouched beside the massive being, his heart still racing from the events on the sea. He dealt with the bizarre flora and fauna of Gaia 7 before carnivorous plants, bioluminescent predators, and even the occasional territorial leviathan, but nothing like this. The creature resembled a dragon from ancient Earth mythology, with a sinuous, serpentine body and iridescent scales that reflected every color of the rainbow under the dim lights of his cabin. Its wings were folded tightly against its sides, like those of a bat, but covered in sleek, metallic skin. The creature's breathing was shallow, its chest heaving with each labored inhale. Logan knew enough about handling wounded animals to recognize the signs of exhaustion and shock. He grabbed a container of water from his supply closet and slowly approached the dragon, unsure if it would even recognize the gesture. "Here," Logan said, his voice soft. "Drink this." The creature's eyes opened, those deep blue orbs flickering like dying embers. For a moment, it simply stared at him, its gaze both alien and strangely familiar. Then, it tilted its head forward, extending a long, forked tongue to lap at the water with surprising delicacy. Logan watched, entranced, as the creature drank. "Good," he muttered, relieved. "That's good." He took a step back, giving it space, but the dragon's eyes never left his. They were filled with an emotion Logan couldn't quite place, gratitude mixed with a desperation that made his chest tighten. It was like looking into the eyes of someone who had lost everything. The cabin shook again as another gust of wind slammed against it. Logan cast a wary glance at the windows, which rattled ominously in their frames. This storm was unlike any he had ever experienced on Gaia 7, but he pushed that concern aside. Right now, his focus was on the creature lying on his floor. "All right," he said, mostly to himself, "let's see if I can figure out what the hell you are." Logan grabbed a medical scanner from his equipment locker, a relic from his days as a surveyor for the Colonial Corps. He carefully ran the device over the dragon's body, watching as the small screen flickered with information. The readings were chaotic, fluctuating heart rate, unstable energy levels, and internal structures that didn't match anything in his database. But one thing was clear, the creature was not from Gaia 7. "Who are you?" Logan muttered under his breath, not expecting an answer. To his utter shock, the creature's eyes flickered, and it made a series of guttural sounds, a mixture of growls, clicks, and low-frequency rumbles. It was trying to communicate, but the sounds were incomprehensible. Logan leaned forward. "Hey, slow down. I don't understand." The creature's eyes narrowed, almost as if it was focusing on him. Then it let out a deep, resonant hum. The sound was low and vibrating, almost like a tuning fork. Logan winced, clutching his head as a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him. He heard something, no, he felt something in his mind. The dragon wasn't speaking through words, it was trying to communicate telepathically. Listen. The word came through like a faint whisper, barely distinguishable from the sound of the storm outside. Logan's eyes widened. You can talk? Speak, difficult, the voice rasped in his mind, accompanied by flashes of color and emotion, frustration, pain, urgency. The creature's mental voice was like a deep, echoing roar, but it was trying to condense its thoughts into something Logan could understand. Must warn, danger. Logan's heart skipped a beat. Danger? What kind of danger? The dragon's eyes closed briefly, as if gathering its strength. Then, a cascade of images flooded Logan's mind. He saw a planet covered in shimmering oceans and floating islands of rock and crystal, a world that was both beautiful and otherworldly. But the vision quickly shifted. The skies were darkened by massive ships, black and menacing, descending like locusts. Alien soldiers in black armor marched across the land, destroying everything in their path. The final image was of a crystalline object, glowing with an intense, almost blinding light. Logan stumbled back, gasping. What was that? Invaders, the creature rasped, its voice a harsh whisper in his mind. They seek weapon. Ancient power. I protect. It coughed, releasing a small puff of blue vapor, like a sigh of exhaustion. They follow me, here. Logan's mind spun. Wait, you're saying those invaders are coming here? To Gaia 7? The dragon's eyes narrowed, and Logan felt a pulse of affirmation. Guardian. They seek crystal. If find it. The creature's mental voice faltered, and for a moment, Logan felt a wave of deep sorrow and fear. Destroy everything. Logan's hands trembled as he absorbed what the dragon was saying. This wasn't just some lost creature, it was the last line of defense against something far worse. He glanced at the glowing scales and the powerful limbs of the dragon, realizing it had likely fought tooth and claw to escape whatever was hunting it. What is this crystal? Logan asked, his voice hushed. Is it some kind of weapon? The dragon's gaze locked onto his, and for a moment, Logan felt an overwhelming flood of emotion, fear, regret, and determination all rolled into one. Crystal, ancient. Not weapon. Key. Key? Logan echoed, trying to piece together the fragmented thoughts coming from the creature. A key to what? The dragon's response was slow, almost reluctant, as if it feared the answer. Key to power. Must not fall wrong hands. Logan's pulse quickened. Whatever this crystal was, it was something powerful enough that an entire armada would cross the stars to find it. And now, this creature had brought that danger straight to Gaia 7. Outside, the storm began to wane, the howling wind slowly dying down. But the storm inside Logan's mind was only just beginning. He had never signed up for this. He was just a fisherman trying to make a life on a remote colony. But now, he was staring into the eyes of a being who had placed its last hope in him. You're telling me they're coming here, Logan said, his voice barely a whisper. That they're coming for you and this crystal. The dragon gave a slow, pained nod. Yes. You helped me. Now, must help, stop them. Logan took a deep breath, the weight of the situation pressing down on him like a physical force. Okay, he said finally, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his gut. I'll help you. But you need to rest. We'll figure out what to do next. The dragon's eyes dimmed with what seemed to be relief. Thank you, human. As the creature's eyes closed and its breathing deepened, Logan stood up, running a hand through his damp hair. Outside, the storm had finally passed, leaving an eerie calm in its wake. But Logan knew that this was only the calm before a much darker storm, a storm that wouldn't come from the sky, but from the depths of space. And somehow, he had just agreed to face it. The next morning, a pale, sickly light filtered through the windows of Logan's cabin. The storm had passed, leaving behind a thick fog that hung over the coast like a shroud. The world outside was eerily quiet, save for the occasional cry of seabirds circling above. Logan stood at the window, sipping a cup of synth coffee, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The creature, no, the dragon, still lay in the middle of his living room, its massive form taking up most of the available space. Its breathing was more stable now, but it hadn't stirred since their conversation the night before. Logan couldn't shake the images the dragon had shown him, the invasion, the alien soldiers, and that glowing crystal that seemed to hold a power beyond anything he could comprehend. He had stayed up half the night trying to come up with a plan, but he was just one man, a fisherman on a remote colony world. He didn't have the resources, the firepower, or the allies to fend off an invasion force. And yet, he couldn't abandon the creature he had rescued. The dragon had trusted him with its secret, and that trust weighed heavily on his conscience. Logan was lost in thought when a sudden, high-pitched whine cut through the morning silence. The sound was unmistakable, engines, and not the kind used by the colony's freighters. His heart sank as he raced outside. The sky, which had been a dull gray moments before, was now filled with dark shapes descending from above. Sleek, black ships with sharp, angular designs, nothing like the utilitarian craft used by the colonists. They looked like predators, their dark hulls absorbing the light as they cut through the clouds. Logan's blood ran cold. "Damn it," he muttered, sprinting back into the cabin. "They're here already." The dragon stirred at the commotion, its eyes slowly opening to reveal glowing blue orbs. "They've come," it said weakly, its voice a rumble in Logan's mind. "I know," Logan replied, trying to stay calm. "But we need to move. They're coming for you, right? If they find you here, we're both dead." The dragon struggled to lift its head, but its body was still weak from its injuries. "Too late. They'll track me." Logan clenched his fists, his mind racing. If the invaders could track the dragon, it meant they had some kind of technology capable of pinpointing its location. Hiding wasn't an option. They had to be prepared to fight, or at least buy enough time to figure out their next move. "Can you move?" Logan asked, grabbing a battered plasma rifle from a storage locker. It was an old model, something he had kept for emergencies, never expecting to actually use it. The dragon gave a weak nod, its wings twitching as it tried to rise. But before it could get to its feet, the ground shook with the force of a nearby explosion. The invaders were already here. Logan gritted his teeth and bolted for the door. He had no plan, just the rifle in his hands and a surge of adrenaline driving him forward. Outside, the invaders were descending from their ship's sleek, armored figures with reflective helmets that hid their faces. They moved with the precision of machines, spreading out in formation as they advanced toward the cabin. Without hesitation, Logan raised his rifle and fired. The plasma bolt struck one of the armored figures in the chest, sending it sprawling to the ground. But the others barely flinched. They adjusted their formation, turning their attention to Logan with an unnerving, synchronized efficiency. "Damn it!" Logan cursed under his breath as he ducked behind a large boulder for cover. These weren't ordinary soldiers, they were something far more dangerous. Inside the cabin, the dragon let out a guttural roar that reverberated through Logan's mind. He felt its anger, its desperation, like a second heartbeat pounding in his skull. "Must protect Crystal," the dragon's voice echoed, filled with both pain and resolve. Logan realized with a jolt that the dragon wasn't just lying there helpless. It was gathering its strength, preparing for a final stand. A surge of determination filled Logan. If the dragon was willing to fight, then so was he. He glanced over the boulder and saw the invaders closing in, their black armored forms like shadows against the mist. He fired another shot, this time aiming for the exposed joints between their armor plates. One of the soldiers staggered, but the others kept advancing, their weapons humming with lethal energy. Then, just as one of them raised its arm to fire at Logan, a brilliant flash of blue light erupted from the cabin. The dragon, now fully awake, had unleashed a blast of energy from its mouth. The force of it was like a concentrated beam of plasma, tearing through the ranks of the invaders and leaving charred craters where they stood. Logan shielded his eyes from the blinding light, blinking away the afterimage. When he looked again, he saw that the dragon was standing, its wings partially unfurled. Its eyes burned with a fierce, determined light. But the effort had cost it dearly. Logan could see it trembling, its strength fading fast. The invaders, however, were relentless. More of them were pouring out of their ships, their numbers seemingly endless. Logan's heart sank. They were outgunned and outnumbered. Even with the dragon's help, there was no way they could hold off this kind of force for long. Human, the dragon's voice came again, strained and weak. I cannot hold much longer. You must take Crystal. What? Logan shouted, barely hearing the dragon over the sounds of battle. The dragon lowered its head, and with a pained growl, it extended one of its claws toward Logan. Clutched within it was a small, glowing crystal, the same one he had seen in his vision. It pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, almost like a heartbeat. This is key, the dragon said, its voice fading. Must protect. If they take it, all is lost. Logan hesitated for a split second. He had no idea what this crystal was truly capable of, but he knew one thing: the dragon had entrusted it to him. Whatever power it held, it was something the invaders desperately wanted. And if they got their hands on it, there would be nothing left of Gaia 7 but ashes. Without another word, Logan grabbed the crystal, feeling its warmth pulse through his palm. The moment he touched it, a surge of energy shot through him. It was as if the crystal recognized him, binding itself to his very soul. The dragon let out a final roar, a defiant cry that shook the ground beneath them. Then, with one last surge of energy, it launched itself into the air, wings beating furiously. It wasn't trying to escape, it was drawing the invaders' attention away from Logan. Go, the dragon's voice roared in Logan's mind, filled with a mix of urgency and a strange, profound sadness. Run, live, protect. Logan didn't need to be told twice. He turned and sprinted toward the dense forest that lined the coastline. Behind him, he heard the dragon's final, desperate cries as the invaders' weapons blazed to life. But he didn't look back. Clutching the glowing crystal to his chest, Logan plunged into the underbrush, the sound of explosions and alien roars fading into the distance. He didn't know where he was going, or how he would survive, but one thing was clear: the fate of Gaia 7 and perhaps much more now rested in his hands. And the invaders would stop at nothing to hunt him down. The forest was a labyrinth of twisted trees and dense undergrowth, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and strange alien flora. Logan's boots pounded the ground as he ran, branches slashing at his face and arms. The sounds of the invaders' distant yet relentless echoed through the misty woods behind him. Every few seconds, the dark sky above was lit by the distant flashes of energy weapons. But Logan kept moving, clutching the glowing crystal close to his chest. His breaths came in ragged gasps, exhaustion pulling at his muscles, but he couldn't afford to stop. He didn't know how long he had been running, only that he had to get as far away as possible. The dragon's last words echoed in his mind: run, live, protect. Those words weighed on him like a lead anchor, spurring him forward even as every fiber of his body screamed for rest. Finally, after what felt like hours, Logan stumbled into a small clearing, collapsing against the trunk of a massive tree. The air was thick with the scent of wet leaves and the distant cries of alien creatures hidden in the shadows. For a moment, he simply lay there, gasping for breath, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. He pulled the crystal from his jacket and stared at it. The object was no larger than his fist, yet it pulsed with a soft, steady light, as if it were alive. Holding it made his skin tingle, like touching the surface of a running power cell. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just a simple trinket. The dragon had called it a key. But a key to what? Logan didn't have the luxury of pondering for long. The faint whine of engines echoed in the distance, the sound of the invaders' search vessels sweeping over the forest canopy. He needed to move against staying in one place too long would only ensure that they found him. With a groan, he forced himself to his feet. But as he was about to move deeper into the woods, the crystal in his hand flared brightly, blinding him for a moment. A searing pain shot through his head, and his vision was filled with another torrent of images. He saw the alien soldiers marching across the landscape, their dark ships blotting out the sky. He saw cities burning, people screaming, and a world being torn apart by war. But there was more. He saw glimpses of what the crystal truly was. It wasn't just a key, it was a conduit, a source of ancient power connected to the very heart of Gaia 7 itself. The planet was not just another colonizable world, it was hiding something that could either save or doom the galaxy. The vision shifted, and Logan saw a vast underground chamber filled with complex machinery. At the center of it all was a massive, dormant structure, shaped like a crystal but far larger and more intricate than the one he held. He realized, with a sickening lurch in his stomach, that the crystal he carried was the missing piece, the final component to activate whatever ancient technology lay hidden beneath Gaia 7. As the vision faded, Logan stumbled back, nearly dropping the crystal. He was left with a terrible understanding: the invaders weren't here just to conquer the colony. They were after the planet's hidden power, something that could potentially destroy entire star systems if unleashed. Damn it, Logan whispered to himself, his mind racing. The crystal wasn't just a weapon, it was a key to something far more dangerous. If the invaders managed to activate the ancient structure, it would be the end of everything he had ever known. A sound behind him made him spin around, raising his plasma rifle. A figure emerged from the shadows of the forest, but it wasn't one of the armored invaders. It was a human woman, her colonial corps uniform torn and dirty, her face streaked with grime. "Wait," she shouted, holding up her hands. "I'm not one of them." Logan kept his rifle trained on her, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Who are you?" "My name is Captain Alara Jansen," she said, panting heavily. "I was part of the Colonial Corps detachment assigned to investigate the strange energy readings on Gaia 7 before." She gestured vaguely toward the sky where the invaders' ships still hovered. "Before they came." Logan narrowed his eyes. "How do I know you're not working with them?" Alara reached into her jacket slowly and pulled out a small, glowing device. "I managed to intercept their communications," she said, her voice urgent. "They're after the crystal you're holding. They think it's the key to awakening an ancient power buried beneath this planet. I don't know what it is, but I know that if they get it, we're all screwed." Logan lowered his rifle slightly but kept it ready. "Why are you here? How did you find me?" Alara's eyes darted to the glowing crystal in Logan's hand. "The crystal emits a unique energy signature. They're tracking it, and so was I. I came to find you because—" She paused, taking a deep breath. "Because I think you're the only one who can stop them." Logan shook his head, frustration and fear bubbling to the surface. "I'm just a fisherman. I don't know anything about ancient alien tech or saving worlds." Alara stepped closer, her eyes fierce. "The dragon chose you. It gave you the crystal. That means something. We don't have time to argue about why. We need to get to the underground structure before they do, or we're all dead." Logan hesitated, the weight of the crystal pressing into his palm like a brand. Everything in him screamed to run, to leave this nightmare behind and find some hidden corner of Gaia 7 where he could hide until the invaders left. But the dragon's dying plea echoed in his mind, and the visions he had seen. He couldn't ignore them. He couldn't walk away. "Fine," Logan said through gritted teeth. "I'll help you. But you better know what you're doing." Alara nodded, relief flashing across her face. I have a skimmer hidden not far from here. We can use it to reach the underground site. But we need to move fast. The invaders will find us soon. As they turned to leave the clearing, the forest behind them erupted in a flash of light. More of the armored invaders were closing in, their black helmets gleaming like the eyes of predators in the mist. Logan and Alara sprinted through the underbrush, the sound of enemy fire crackling around them. The chase was on. They reached Alara's skimmer, a sleek, low-hovering craft hidden beneath thick foliage. Logan jumped into the passenger seat as Alara fired up the engines. The skimmer shot forward, barely skimming the tops of the trees as they sped toward the mountains on the horizon. The crystal in Logan's hand pulsed faster, its light growing brighter with each passing second. They're right behind us. Logan shouted as the invaders' ships appeared in the distance, their weapons firing beams of searing energy. Alara swerved to avoid the blasts, her jaw set in determination. Hold on. We're almost there. The ground below began to change, the dense forest giving way to jagged cliffs and deep ravines. Logan could see it now, the entrance to the underground chamber, hidden among the rocks. As they approached, the crystal in his hand grew almost blindingly bright, resonating with whatever lay beneath the surface. Now, Logan! Alara yelled. Use the crystal. It's the only way to open the entrance. Logan gripped the crystal with both hands, focusing on it with every ounce of his will. The crystal flared with a brilliant light, sending out a pulse that rippled through the air like a shockwave. The ground trembled, and with a deafening rumble, a massive door in the mountainside began to slide open. But as the entrance revealed itself, the invaders' ships closed in, their weapons primed to fire. We're out of time. Alara screamed. Get inside. With the crystal still glowing in his hand, Logan leapt from the skimmer and ran toward the entrance, Alara close behind him. The ancient door sealed shut just as the first wave of enemy fire struck, leaving them in darkness. Logan's heart pounded as he and Alara stood in the silent, pitch-black depths of the ancient structure. Whatever lay ahead, there was no turning back now. Gaia 7's secret had been unlocked, and the real battle was just beginning.